I would ask the coalition to provide an overview of our EPA decision to use the egg pad cell for the use of it as a disposal alternative for approximately 300,000 cubic yards of lesser contaminated PCBs in the lower harbor and in the upper harbor that range between 50 and 190 parts per million. Most of it on average is less than 100 parts. And our cleanup level for the lower harbor is 50 parts per million. So, and as part of the explanation of significant difference, which is the decision document that we call it, it's like a revision to the original 1998 record of decision document that called for 4 confined disposal facilities on the along the harbor waterfront, and 3 of those are still on the books. And we are also we got rid of 1 down by the our dewatering facility. We actually saved about 15 acres of being able to not fill in wetlands. So that was a good thing. And now we're hydraulically dredging the upper harbor and shipping that off-site to filter cake and treating the water and bringing it back into the harbor. And that's a process that runs all the way from the upper harbor all the way down to the bulkhead that we have down there on Harvey T-Shon Avenue. And that's where we are right now. So we have dredged approximately, I'm just giving you an overview of what EPA has done at the site so far too. So to date we've dredged approximately 220,000 cubic yards. We have a total of 900,000 cubic yards to address, and this would be 300,000 of that total. And then the remaining number we still have a way to go. And so this group, the coalition provides some very good comments on the proposal. And one of the things that my predecessor Dave Dickerson did was to provide a technical working group for people that wanted to know more technical details about how we would implement this, both in the design, construction, and closure phases of the CAD cell. And so that's what this group is all about. And this is our kickoff meeting, and we expect to have, if you want to be members, you can join. I don't know if Mark, if you want to talk about this later on, maybe. Okay. So this is the overview of this particular CAD cell decision. Okay? Go ahead, Dave. The reasons why we looked toward the CAD cell as an alternative was because after the 1998 record of decision, we estimated there to be about 450,000 cubic yards of material that had to be addressed under the Superfund program. Well, we did further characterization in the entire upper and lower harbor, and found that in fact it was doubled to about 900,000. So just a little under that. And in that 900,000, there was included some additional wetland areas, but also shoreline areas that needed to be cleaned up as well, that we weren't aware of earlier. And in addition, we had some settlement funds that we were using to implement our remedy, and those ran dry in about the 2002 timeframe. And now we solely rely on the National Superfund program for competing for money that is becoming less and less and less every year. And we have been getting $15 million per year dredge, and that only allows us to do 45 dredge days a year. So it brings the remedy completion date to 46 years away, and it's really unacceptable to everybody, including myself and everybody that's on the project. something we have to live with. So what, in addition, looking forward, EPA's budget's been slashed even more. Just got word on that, more than we thought. So there's a very big uncertainty in that as well. So we're trying to look at other ways of safe, efficient, protective disposal options for dealing with some of this contaminated sediment. Well, under the record of decision, there is there was a addition to it that's called the state enhanced remedy. Probably some folks have mentioned that they're part of that. And what that is it's the state petitioned EPA to include navigational dredging in the harbor, which hadn't been done for a long time and needs to be done to improve the harbor. And that could be done by the state's oversight of the Harbor Development Commission doing that work. And that's been ongoing since, well, I think it started like around 2002, the plans for that. That whole where to put the CAD cells, that was all went through a final environmental impact report, public comment, and period, and well studied, and it went forward, and we have now in the Lower Harbor area between the Cockshell Street bridges and Hope's Island is an area called the DMMP, Dredge Materials Management Plan area, where CAD cells can be located. And the main reason for that is that that area has very deep bedrock and typically soil materials that would support a CAD cell. So the HTC has built 3 to date. One is a semi-CAD cell, I guess, a borrow kit, but they have 2 other CAD cells that one's full, one's almost full, and they're going to be capped eventually. So that is in place, and we thought that this would be a great opportunity to partner with them. And in fact, it was envisioned in their plan back in 2006 to maybe include this CAD cell, EPA Superfund CAD cell, as part of the overall harbor plan. So we looked at this, and Dave, can you like this? So we looked at the time frame, and like I said, 46 years and $1.7 billion later is what it would cost us. CAD cell technology is becoming proven technology. It's widely used for navigational dredging in many, many harbors around the world. And there are some Superfund sites that have proposed it and are looking at it in their selective process. With this CAD cell, we can actually clean up the entire lower harbor and a portion of the upper harbor that has that lower level contaminated PCBs in the sediment. And it addresses 1/3 of the total amount that we have to address, as well as it's actually 80% of the surface area of the harbor that will be cleaned up. And ecologically speaking, that's very important. We're reducing the risk for 80% of the harbor. That's pretty significant. We've already seen improvement with the navigational dredging, and the benthic communities are starting to come back, and we monitor that over the long term. And so that was another thing that was a good thing to have as an outcome of this decision. Dave? There were basically 4 separate lines of evidence that we investigated, and it demonstrated that, like I just said, the ecological quality has been improved of the lower harbor. We also did real-time state-of-the-art science monitoring of one of the CAD cell 2, the navigational CAD cell, inside and outside the CAD cell, that shows the behavior of sediment being put into the CAD cell, and found that there was very little turbidity. We did toxicity testing, there was no toxicity, and it behaved rather well. And the air and water quality modeling that we've done, in addition, has shown that we can safely manage any kind of water quality possible problems, and as well as air. I know we have some disagreement on that, but right now the mud flats up in the Upper Harbor are continually, emitting some form of PCBs into the atmosphere. And but in looking at the whole process, the report that Karen's referring to, the whole process, we looked at it from putting it in the bucket, into the scow, the placement of it, and many different things, and we found that it was negligible. And we can even look at, I can look further into the whole cumulative risk aspect of that as well, which would include previous PCB concentrations in the past, because PCBs have chronic risk. So, and then we looked at an underwater cap that we actually capped with one of the CAD cells. The HDC and Apex helped us cap an area right outside of the hurricane barrier that had approximately 200 ppm average PCB concentrations, and that we've been monitoring that every year. The bathymetry, we've been doing benthic monitoring, and it's doing fine. It's outside the barrier. It's also concave, not convex. The CAD cell, once it has a cap, the cap is sufficient based on modeling. Cap is sufficient at 3 feet. There will be additional sedimentation built up on that to a point where it can go up to 11 feet worth of filling. It'll still be a concave structure. Okay, Dave? And it will shorten the overall cleanup time depending on the funding level. With either the $15 million a year or the $30 million a year, we can actually reduce it by $500 million or $500 million, which is a significant amount of money. I know when you look at that, you say, okay, it went from 1.7 to 1.2. Which, that's a big deal. It's still $500 million. The majority of the comments during the public comment period that we had, we extended the comment period, so it was all through the summer, from June to the end of September. And most of the comments were in support of it, thought that the CAD cell implementation for the Superfund material was feasible. And but some comments were that we needed more detail on how this is going to be done. And so that's why we're having this group here, to actually be involved with looking at the design documents and monitoring documents and contractor bid documents, and we'd like your input on those things, and we'll take them into consideration as we move forward to finalizing these documents.